Before I get to the contents of today's video, please make sure to check yourplaymat.com and create yourself your own unique and original playmat. And don't forget to use the discount code you see on the screen to benefit from a 15% discount on your purchase from yourplaymat.com. How's it going, guys? This is Daniel, this is Dragoncrafts. In today's video I have for you my Gnster deck profile. I have built this deck for competitive play. Surely the reason was because this deck is very capable of breaking boards. It can also be capable of doing a huge OTK, and also the fact that these cards are still new, they can perform really well into this format. So yeah, I've also been trying a couple of cards here and there. So without any further delays, let's get right to the deck. Okay, so the first card I want to talk about is Picari Gnster, 3 copies. This card is a key component in the strategy, basically for the fact that when this card is summoned, you get to search one AI spell or trap from your deck to your hand. So this card is a searcher for the deck. Also, the second effect is quite good and we get to use it eventually, which is you can target one Gnster monster you control, its level becomes 4 until the end of this turn. So both this card's effect are really good and you will rely on this card for your strategy to move forward. The next card I'm talking about is 3 copies of Achichi Gnster. Probably this is the main key component of the deck. Basically when it's summoned you get to add one level 4 or lower Gnster monster from your deck to your hand, except Achichi. For this effect, this card is really powerful. The second effect, we won't use it quite a lot. It's that at the start of the damage step, when your Cyber's monster battles, you can banish this card from your graveyard, and if you do, destroy that monster that you control. There is another card in the extra deck that will work well with Achichi. Yeah, but mainly the first effect is the most important for this deck. Next, we also run 3 copies of Doyon Gnster. Doyon Gnster, it's a recycle card. Basically when it's summoned you get to target one Gnster monster in your graveyard and you add it to your hand. Also the other effects we get to use it as well, that if this card is sent to the graveyard as material for the link summon of a Cyber's monster, you can add one AI spell and trap from your graveyard to your hand. This card will come in very handy, especially using the first effect to recycle one Gnster monster from your graveyard to your hand. Then we run 2 copies of Bururu Gnster. Bururu Gnster is basically your foolish burial for the deck. When it's summoned you get to send one Gnster monster from your deck to the graveyard. Also the second effect is quite powerful. If this card is sent to the graveyard as material for the synchro summon of a Cyber's monster, you can target one monster in your graveyard that was used for that synchro summon except Bururu and special summon that monster. Then we play 1 copy of Doshin Gnster. We don't really need to run more copies of this card. Basically, if you control an Gnster monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. Also, you can target one Cyber's Link monster in your graveyard, return it to the extra deck, and if you do, add one AI Love Fusion from your deck to your hand. Also, 1 copy of this card is Hiyari Gnster. Hiyari Gnster has a similar effect to that of Doshin's, which if you control a Gnster monster you can special summon this card from your hand. However, the effect is a bit different because you can tribute one other Cyber's monster, add one level 5 or higher Gnster monster from your deck to your hand, and if you do, this card becomes level 4 until the end of this turn. Then, if you tributed a Link monster to activate this effect, you can also add one AI's Ritual from your deck to your hand. So basically by tributing one Gnster monster, this card will become a level 4. Also we run 1 copy of Doyon Ribo Gnster. This is the least powerful cards of all of these. However, I think the effect of this card can come up really good, especially if you're, at a late game and going 4 time, this card really will work well. First of all, during damage calculation, like if your Gnster monster is attacked, as a quick effect you can discard this card and you take no battle damage from that battle. That's already a good effect. However, the second effect is when an Gnster monster's effect or AI spell or trap or effect is activated that inflicts damage to your opponent, even during the damage step. Also, it's a quick effect. You can banish this card from your graveyard and you double that damage inflicted to your opponent. For that second effect, this card is really useful in this deck. Eventually you will see when I will explain more from the extra deck. Also, to finish off the Atignisters, one copy of Water Leviathan Atignister. So Water Leviathan Atignister is the card you will search using Hiyari's effect. It's the only level 5 or higher Atignister monster we have yet. As I've already talked in a previous video, which I will leave a link in the description below, this card has a very potential effect and it is a very powerful ritual monster with a really powerful effect. So that's for the Ignister monsters. And for the other generic monster, we run 3 copies of Balancer Lord. Balancer Lord is very powerful in this deck strategy, mainly because once per turn you can pay 1000 life points, and during your main phase this turn you can normal summon one Cyberse monster in addition to your normal summon or set. And if this card is banished, you can special summon one level 4 or lower monster from your hand. Then I run 1 copy of Lady Debug. Lady Debug is a basic search for the deck also. When this card is summoned, you can add 1 level 3 or lower Cyberse monster from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect once per turn. I've seen decks that run 3 copies of this card. I don't really think you need to run 3. I think 1 is more than enough, especially since we have cards to get this card out more quickly. So I don't think Lady Debug need to run 3 copies of it. I chose to run 1 and I find it very comfortable. Then one card that I'm still testing, however turned out to be quite well, is Cyberse Whitehead. Cyberse Whitehead, if you don't know its effect, is if you control 2 monsters with the same type. So basically all the deck is a Cyberse monster deck, so it's easier to control 2 monsters with the same type. You can special summon this card from your hand, and you can only special summon Cyberse Whitehead once per turn this way. So this is an extender to the deck. But also, if this card is sent to the graveyard as a link material, you can make all your opponent monsters lose 1000 attack until the end of this turn. This effect could be really powerful if you go for a link summon, then summon a monster like Water Leviathan Atignister. You can be sure to return all monsters your opponent controls back to the hand, and you have an open board for you to go for the OTK. And to finish the monster cards of the deck, I run 3 copies of Droll Lockbird. I really believe that this card is the strongest hand trap in this format. Basically, going against Spirals, this card will definitely choke the strategy of Spirals, and then during your turn you can launch an OTK. So yeah, I think Droll Lockbird is very powerful in this format. So going for the spell cards, we run 3 copies of Ignister A Island. This card is really powerful. You need to play 3 copies of this card. This card is also searchable by Picari Atignister. Basically, its effect is very powerful, that if you control no monsters in your main monster zone, so it doesn't include your extra monster zone, you can special summon 1 level 4 or lower Atignister monster from your hand. But for the rest of this turn, you cannot special summon monsters with the same original attribute by the effect of Ignister Island. Also, you cannot special summon monsters except Cyberse monsters. If this card is in your graveyard, also you can banish one Ignister monster and set this card. Like I said, this card is extremely powerful. So to further understand the strategy of this card is that you can special summon Picari, Achichi, Doyon, Bururu, Doshin, also Hiyari. With this card effect, once each, you cannot summon the monster with the same attribute, however, but definitely the 6 cards having different attributes will help a lot for the consistency of this deck. Also, we run 3 copies of AI the Reborn. This is basically the quick play monster reborn for this deck. It's very powerful and very good. We got to target one Ignister monster in your graveyard and special summon it. It can be any Ignister monster. Also, you can special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except Cyberse monsters. The second effect, we don't use it that much, is that when an attack is declared involving 2 monsters, you can banish this card from your graveyard and 1 card from your hand, then target one of your AI spells and traps that is banished or in the graveyard except AI the Reborn, add that card to your hand, but we are more for the first effect of this card, which is really powerful. Then we play one copy of AI Love Fusion. This is the card that we search with Doshin and Ignister. Basically it lets you fusion summon during your turn. If you use your Ignister monster as a fusion material, you can also use one link monster your opponent controls as material. This card is basically for a Cybers type fusion summon. However, we are going to use this card for an Ignister monster, so yeah, we could use going second an opponent's link monster. Then one copy of AI's Ritual, and this is the card we will add with Hiyari at Ignister. Basically, it's used to ritual summon any Cybers ritual monster. The good thing of this card is that if you control an Ignister monster when this card is activated, you can also use Ignister monsters in your graveyard by banishing them as the cost for the ritual. Now for the generic 3 copies of Signet Mining. You all know what Signet Mining does. Basically you get to discard one card and add one level 4 or lower Cybers monster from your deck to your hand. Practically almost all monsters are Cybers monsters. It's easy to play this card quite well. Then, since this deck being a combo heavy deck, 3 copies of Called by the Grave, also 2 copies of Twin Twisters for back row removal, and 1 copy of Terraforming to search your Ignister Island. So that's it for the main deck. And going to the extra deck, we will start with 1 copy of Earth Golem at Ignister. This is the fusion monster of the deck. The material is 1 Cybers monster and 1 Link monster, and the effect is also quite good that when this card is fusion summoned, you take no damage for the rest of this turn, and if it attacks a monster that was special summoned for the extra deck, this card gains attack equal to the original attack during the damage step. And when this card is destroyed by battle, you can target 1 Cybers monster in your graveyard and special summon it. This card is very powerful. Unfortunately, you might not get to summon it that much. However, it's really reliant. 1 copy is enough. Then we play 2 copies of Wind Pegasus at Ignister. This is another very powerful monster. Basically, during your main phase, you can destroy spell and traps your opponent controls up to the number of Ignister monsters you control. With this effect, you can destroy potentially 3 back row cards from your opponent. Basically, with the combo, you get enough cards to have 3 Ignister monsters on the field, including him. So yeah, you get to destroy 3 cards. Also, if another card you control is destroyed by battle or opponent's card effect, while this card is on the field or in the graveyard, you can banish this card, target 1 card your opponent controls and shuffle it into the deck. So this card will also become a Nightmare Unicorn to continue disrupting your opponent's field. Then 1 copy of Cybers Quantum Dragon. This card is really powerful, going for the OTK for this deck, like I was saying before. Then 2 copies of Light Dragon at Ignister. This has the same effect of Wind Pegasus, but instead it will destroy monsters up to the number of Ignisters you control. However, also if a monster you control will be destroyed by a card effect, you can also detach 1 card from this card instead, and when another Cybers monster you control inflicts damage to your opponent, you can special summon 1 Link monster from your graveyard. So this card will help a lot for your OTK. Then I run 1 Firewall Exceed Dragon. This is a card that I've been trying, and to be honest, I found it pretty powerful. This Exceed Summon card gains 500 attack times the total link rating of Link monsters linked to this card. Also, you can detach 2 materials from this card and target 1 Link for Cybers Link monster in your graveyard, special summon it to your field so it points to this card. Basically, you don't use the second effect of this card, mainly for the attack boost, like we said, going for the OTKs. 2 copies of Link Kuribo. This card, all it requires is 1 level 4 or lower Cybers monster. This card can negate trap cards because you can tribute it to negate that card's effect and banish it. So if your opponent would play a card like Evil Imaged, you can really negate this card and banish that card. Also, you can tribute 1 Ignister monster that was summoned from the extra deck, special summon this card if this card was in the graveyard. Then we run 1 copy of Cybers Wicked. Basically what this card does, if you summon a monster where it points to, you banish 1 Cybers monster from your graveyard, add 1 Cybers Tuner monster from your deck to your hand, and we're talking about a card like Bururu at Ignister, which is the tuner of the deck. That's the only use you get from it. Then 2 copies of Dark Templar at Ignister. This is basically somewhat of your soul charge for the deck. If a monster is special summoned to a zone this card points to, even during the damage step you can special summon as many level 4 or lower at Ignister monsters from your graveyard as possible to your zone that this card points to. Their effects will be negated. Also, when this card destroys your opponent's monster by battle, you can special summon 1 Cyberse monster from your graveyard. Again, Dark Templar at Ignister is a very, very powerful card to go for. We also play 1 copy of Fire Phoenix at Ignister. Basically, what this card does is that during damage calculation, if this card attacks, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to this card's attack, and if you to your opponent takes no battle damage from that battle. However, it is at this point where Don Yoribo comes in effect, because if you have it in the graveyard and you attack with Fire Phoenix at Ignister, you will basically double the damage that your opponent will take. Your opponent will take 4600 damage points just like that. Also, if this card is destroyed by a card effect, you can destroy 1 monster your opponent controls, and this is where Achichi at Ignister would come in handy, because you can banish this card from your graveyard, destroy Fire Phoenix, and destroy an opponent's monster your opponent controls. And also, during the next standby phase after this Link summoned card was destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon this card from your graveyard. Next one, Transcode Talker. Basically, we use this card to summon back our Cyberse Wicked for an extension of the board. And last but not least, Firewall Dragon Dark Fluid. This card goes really well with the strategy of Ignisters. You can summon Firewall Dragon Dark Fluid in your first turn. Also, you will have potential for card negations. So guys, this was it for today's deck. I will prepare also a deck showing you some combos with this deck. If there is a card maybe you don't like, or maybe a card that you wish that you think it might go well with this deck, please let me know in the comment section below. And if you like the content of this video, especially if you like this deck, hit the like button. Also, if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel and hit the notifications button so that you will eventually know when a new video is uploaded. So I guess that's all for today. I wish all you have a good day, and I'll see you in the next video.